You know, I spend a lot of time and enjoy looking for different stories and different lessons that we can learn from things that go on in life. And I found this one little story the other day that I thought I'd like to share with you. And I think some of us can actually identify with some things that we have to do to learn these lessons in life. You see, Jack took a long look at his speedometer before slowing down. 73 in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. Fourth time in as many months. How could a guy get caught so often? When his car had slowed down to 10 miles an hour, Jack pulled over, but only partially. He said, "Let the cop worry about the potential traffic hazard. Maybe some other car will actually tweak his backside with their mirror," because Jack was just kind of frustrated. The cop was stepping out of his car and the big pad in his hand, and, "Oh no, is that Bob?" "It is, it's Bob from church." Well, Jack sunk further into his trench coat. This was worse than the coming ticket. A Christian cop catching a guy from his own church. A guy who happened to be a little eager to get home after a long day at the office. A guy who was about to play golf with that same guy tomorrow. Jumping out of the car, he approached the man that he saw every Sunday, and a man that he had never seen, though, in uniform. "Well, hi, Bob. Fancy meeting you like this." "Hello, Jack," Bob said, and he smiled. "Well, I guess you caught me red-handed in a rush to see my wife and kids, huh?" Bob said, "Yeah, I guess so." See, Bob seemed uncertain. "Well, good. I've seen long days at the office here lately, you know, Bob, and I'm afraid that I bent the rules a little bit just this once." And Jack kind of toted a pebble on the pavement and said, "You know, Diane said something about roast beef and potatoes tonight. Know what I mean?" Bob looked up and said, "Yeah, I know what you mean. But Jack, I also know that you have a reputation in this precinct." Ooh, ouch. This wasn't going in the right direction, Jack thought. Time to change his tactics. "What'd you clock me at, Bob?" 70. "So would you sit back in your car, please?" Now wait a minute here, Bob. I checked as soon as I saw you, and I was barely nudging even 65. See, the lie seemed to come easier with every ticket. Bob looked at him and says, "No, please, Jack, back in your car." Flustered, Jack hunched himself through the still open door and slammed it shut, and he stared at the dashboard. So he was in no rush to open the window, though. The minutes ticked by, and Bob scribbled away on his pad. Well, wait a minute, why hadn't he asked me for his driver's license? Whatever the reason, it would be a month of Sundays before Jack would ever sit near this cop again in church. Then the tap on the door jerked Jack's head around to the left, and there was Bob, a folded piece of paper in his hand. Jack rolled down the window a mere couple of inches, just enough for Bob to pass him through with the slip of paper. "Thanks," Jack said, and he could not quite keep the sneer out of his voice. Bob returned to his police car without a word, and Jack watched his retreat in the mirror. Then he unfolded the piece of paper. How much was this one going to cost, he thought. Wait a minute. What was this? Some kind of joke? It wasn't even a ticket. And Jack began to read. Dear Jack, once upon a time I had a daughter. She was 6 when she was killed by a car. And you guessed it, it was a speeding driver. A fine and 3 months in jail, and the man was free. Free to go hug his daughters, all 3 of them. I had only one. And I'm going to have to wait until heaven before I can ever hug her again. 1,000 times I've tried to forgive that man. 1,000 times I thought that I already had. And maybe I did, but I need to do it again. Even now, pray for me, please, Jack. And be careful, Jack, because my son is all I have left now. Signed, Bob. Well, Jack turned around in time to see Bob's car pull away and head down the road. Jack watched it until it disappeared. In fact, a full 15 minutes later, he too then pulled away and drove slowly home, praying for forgiveness and then hugging a very surprised wife and kids when he arrived home. Interesting how life's lessons are learned one day at a time. This is Pastor Riley, and that's just a thought.